Can you raise your hand? Can you, it's okay, I'll turn the sound up a little bit more. All right, can you hear me now? Is that better? Can everyone in the way back hear me? Raise your hand if you can hear me. All right, that's great. Wonderful. Okay, so we are here in a Quaker meeting house. And how many of you have been in a Quaker meeting house before? Awesome. Okay. So I want to welcome you and just tell you a little bit about the meeting house, and then Joe will tell you a little bit about the Greater Pasadena Affordable Housing Group and others that we're associated with. As you can see, our Quaker meeting house is very simple. There are no religious trappings. We don't have a pastor or set order of worship. We come together to worship in silence, guided by the Spirit, and speak only when we feel led by the Spirit. And everybody can speak in a Quaker meeting for worship. We feel that this way of worship helps us feel more connected to each other and to God. Our meeting house was built in 1907 by Philadelphia Quakers. And every one of these benches has a placard, and it indicates that there's a meeting house somewhere in the country that donated these benches in 1909. A lot of history here. Quakers have been committed to peace and justice work for 350 years. We were the first religious group that allowed women to speak and to preach in a meeting for worship in 1660. So we have a special concern in this meeting, Orange Grove meeting, for housing justice and also for immigrants. Many of us visit detainees in Adelanto, and we advocate for immigrant rights. So I want to thank all of you for showing up and for showing interest in what we think is one of the most important concerns in our city and our nation, and that is affordable housing and housing for those who are homeless. And I want to thank all the candidates who are here at the table. Almost looks like a Democratic debate. And they have all written responses to our questions, and the responses have been awesome. And we're really grateful that the candidates are taking this issue so seriously. Well, if you didn't get a booklet, and we ran out, or actually our printer broke down after 75 of them, we do have it in a PDF format, and we'll be glad to send you a copy of the booklet with all the comments and responses of the candidates. And we also plan to put it on our blog, makinghousinghappen.net. So now I want to turn to my wife, Jill, who is helped to start GPAHG, and who has been, she was chosen the Progressive of the Year just recently, and she'll tell you a little bit about GPAHG.
Welcome, everybody. So GPAHG stands for the Greater Pasadena Affordable Housing Group, and it was initially AHA, which stands for Affordable Housing Action. This group was started in the late 90s by the American Friends Service Committee, which is part of the Quaker movement. We used to meet in their office on North Fair Oaks, which later became the Mothers Club. These early days, Michelle White, myself, and other key leaders had the foresight to advocate for affordable housing. One of our early wins was getting an inclusionary housing ordinance for our city, which today has produced over 577 units of affordable housing embedded in higher-end housing throughout our city at no cost to our city. The fee that developers can choose to pay in lieu of including affordable housing has been leveraged to preserve and produce up to 690 more units. We had the joy of advocating to strengthen this policy in 2019 with POP and the leadership of Ed Washatka, who is one of our co-sponsors for this event. You can find materials in the back about them. Our powerful housing department, for which we advocated for, has done a stellar job. And I need to go to my next page. There we go. To assure that these fees that are paid by developers have been put to good use. We have a long history of successes that you can read on our website, makinghousinghappen.org. But I want to point to one more success, and that's our effort to strengthen our city's tenant protection ordinance. I feel so grateful that today we have a solid movement, the Pasadena Tenant Union, to carry on this tenant protection torch. So they're also co-sponsor, and you can find materials in the back about their work as well. So we thank you, PTU, for being here and partnering with us. And lastly, but not least, we want to publicly thank the IMA, the Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance, the oldest association of African American pastors, who are also a co-sponsor with us for this event. They've been doing housing justice long before our group ever existed. In 1989, they were listed among the plaintiffs in a court challenge for the implementation of the California Proposition 2, the slow growth initiative, on the grounds that it would limit the development of low-cost housing. So we are grateful for our partners and the opportunity to have you all here tonight. And I want to back to Anthony News.
Thank you, Jill, for telling us about GPAHG and our co-sponsors. She'll share more about what you can do to be involved with housing justice work in our city later, after the candidates have spoken. I will be brief because I want to make sure all the candidates have time to speak. And just, I've checked out the hall. When you have a chance to speak, please stand up so that people way in the back can see you, okay? We don't have a raised podium here in this Quaker meeting because everybody's equal. So we're going to have a moderator who will be asking the questions. Every candidate will have a chance to speak 3 times. Opening remarks for 2 minutes each. And then they'll be asked questions in each grouping by district and then mayoral race. And then each candidate will have 2 minutes to give concluding remarks. And after this time of sharing by the candidates, if they have time afterwards to stay a little bit longer and talk with you, I'm sure you can ask some more questions of them at that time. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our moderator for the evening, Martin Usong. Martin is an attorney who lives and works in Pasadena. Like you, he's concerned about health, safety, and welfare of our local community. Here's Martin.
Thank you. If you haven't already done so already, if you could silence your phones. With that, we'll get started. A few more words on format and procedure to the candidates. I'll begin by introducing each of you by group. First, the District 6 candidates, followed by the District 4 candidates, then the District 2 candidates, and finally the mayoral candidates. You will then be given time, 2 minutes, to give your opening statement, which is to include your vision for addressing affordable housing and homelessness. After you give your opening statements, I'll ask a randomly chosen question for each candidate group to answer, and lastly, you'll have a chance to give your closing statements. As to procedure, you'll each, as was already mentioned, be given 2 minutes to answer each question. Our timekeeper will raise a green sign at the beginning of the 2 minutes. When 30 seconds are left, she'll raise a yellow sign. And then when your time is up, she'll raise a red sign. Okay. With that, I'd like to begin by introducing the 3 candidates from District 6 who will give their opening remarks for 2 minutes after I read their brief bios. Ryan Bell is the father of 2 daughters who live in Pasadena, one of whom attends Pasadena City College. He has spent his entire career working for the empowerment of people and the betterment of communities as a pastor, as a nonprofit leader in the homeless services, and as a community organizer. He is a member of the Pasadena Tenants Union. Tamerlyn Godley is past president of the Armory Center for the Arts. Please stand up. Thank you. Yeah, she is the president of the Armory Center for the Arts and a leader within the Pasadena Educational Foundation. Tamara is a partner with the law firm Munger, Tolles & Olson, LLP. Born and raised in the Napa Valley, she's a former public school teacher, and as an attorney, she has been a leader in protecting public school funding. Thank you. And Councilmember Steve Madison explains in his bio that he was raised by a single mom and became a lawyer through education and hard work. He says he ran for council and is running for re-election to help people just as he was helped by so many. He believes we need experienced, proven leadership now more than ever. He'd be honored to have your support. District candidates, now you have time to share your vision for addressing the affordable housing and homelessness crises. Mr. Bell, you have 2 minutes and you may begin.
I practice my theater voice. Okay, I'm going to use the mic. Okay.
Hello. Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you to the Quaker Meeting House for hosting us and for GPAHG for putting this together and all the partners. It's a privilege to be here, and it kind of warms my heart to see everybody out here on a weeknight talking about this issue that is so close to my heart. It's actually the issue that led me to run for City Council. I am a father, a member of the Pasadena Tenants Union, a tenant myself, and a member of sort of that lower than median income group. And I feel like this is a crucial aspect of my vision for affordable housing and housing in general in Los Angeles, in Pasadena. I have written a statement like everyone did, so rather than read that to you, I want to just say that at the core of my political philosophy about housing in particular is that housing is a human right. And at the core of our problem is that we have made housing into a financial instrument, a commodity that is traded for profit. And there's no way that we can create long-term affordable housing when housing is treated as a financial instrument, like a stock or a bond or some other type of instrument that you would use to turn a profit. I want to remind you that last year we housed 133 people a day in Los Angeles County, but 150 new people fell into homelessness at the same time each day. My vision for affordable housing and ending homelessness in Los Angeles includes strong renter protections, much stronger than what we have with AB 1482. We need to build affordable housing, and we need to move towards non-commodified public housing for the city to use its power, its state power, to create permanently affordable housing for the lowest income brackets. Affordable housing is, any housing is affordable for someone. And so we need true affordable housing, and the only way we can do that is to remove it from the market system.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. And Ms. Godley, you have 2 minutes.
Hi, Tamara Godley, running for Pasadena City Council District 6.
So I've been walking door to door in District 6 since last March. I've been to almost 3,000 homes and talked with many, many people. And the number one issue on everyone's mind is homelessness and what we're going to do about it. So when we think about homelessness, there's at least 2 different aspects that we need to consider. First, as Ryan said, we're housing people, but then people are falling into homelessness. So we need to look at that piece of this. And right now, we have a national model where we let people fall into homelessness, and then we spend a lot of resources trying to find them and get them back into housing. And I really want to flip that model. We need to be much more proactive. There are some programs now where someone is about to fall into homelessness, about to be evicted, city gets notice, send a social worker out, help them assess, can we keep them in that housing, can we pay back rent, get them stabilized. There's a program in Chicago that's doing this, and a year later, 75% of those people are still in housing. Sometimes what people just need is help in that moment. So I want us to be much more proactive. There's 3 other main populations that fall into homelessness: foster youth, those coming out of jail, and veterans. So we need to push the county to make sure no youth are emancipated to the streets. We need to make sure they scale up the county programs and the nonprofit programs that keep foster youth in housing. Same with those coming out of jail. Those coming out of our jails right now have an 80% recidivism rate, but who of us would do any better without any resources or ability to get a job? There are some small programs that now that people go into job training and get housing assistance. It's cutting recidivism from 80% to 20% and keeping people from homelessness. So I want to be really active in the city about being proactive and working with our county partners on this.
Thank you. So I'm Steve Madison. I'm the incumbent city council member for the West Pasadena District 6. And first and foremost, I want to thank Anthony and Jill and all of you for organizing and being here tonight. We see quite a bit of Anthony and Jill at City Hall. And I think my colleagues and I will all agree that there are forces of nature when it comes to issues of affordability, homelessness, and housing. So, I thank you very much. And certainly, there are many important issues. We live in a complex municipal environment, but certainly housing and affordability, broadly defined, including homelessness, are toward the top of that list. I both have a record for you to judge, and I have some specific initiatives and policy proposals going forward that I want to share with you this evening. So quickly, in terms of my priorities, I think inclusionary housing is extremely important, and I've been criticized for having been in office too long, but I think it's interesting that you go back to when we adopted the inclusionary housing ordinance. I was right there side by side with you, and that was in 2001 when we adopted that ordinance. And it's easy to forget now that there was a lot of controversy, a lot of opposition. It was not unanimous, and there was even the threat of major litigation against us. Fast forward to just this past summer, and we modified our inclusionary housing ordinance, and I was one of the leaders on the council for that. We increased the amount of units, and I also suggested, and the council agreed, that we review the ordinance every year going forward. We need to also take advantage of the Caltrans homes that we have in my district. There are over 100 homes that are vacant, owned by Caltrans. They're a lousy property manager. The state is rightly pushing us to develop more affordable housing, and here we have numerous available homes that we can use. There's a lot more to talk about tonight, and I look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. And if we could politely ask the audience to hold their applause until the end, we'd appreciate it. Next, I will introduce the two candidates from District 4 who will give their opening remarks afterwards. First, we have Charlotte, or Char Bland. She is a longtime Pasadena resident, community advocate, and corporate leader. She has been a senior account executive for several Fortune 500 companies supporting government accounts. As a chair of the Pasadena Commission on the Status of Women, she led efforts to produce and distribute a free public report that examined the quality of life of women living and working in the city of Pasadena. Thank you. And we also have Councilmember Jean Masuda, who was born in East Los Angeles, attended public schools, then graduated from Cal State University in Los Angeles. During his 35 years as a resident of Pasadena, he was a past president of a neighborhood association and a board member of the Pasadena Educational Foundation, before becoming the District 4 council member for 8.5 years. 2 as a vice mayor. Currently, he serves on the Legislative Policy Committee and represents Pasadena on the Gold Line Construction Authority and the Gold Line Joint Powers Authority. District 4 candidates, please share your vision for addressing the affordable housing and homelessness crises. Ms. Bland, you have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Thank you, and of course, thank you to the Greater Pasadena Affordable Housing Group for hosting this evening. I really appreciate that. As a businesswoman, wife, and grandmother, I know our city can do better with the housing crisis. I'm running for city council to bring people together and create a positive change that strengthens our communities. I have decades of experience in business and nonprofit organizations where I help access community needs and implement strategies to solve problems. As a commissioner on the status of women, it is imperative that our city provides affordable housing to the women and families that we serve. My platform is really a holistic approach, starting with protecting the character of Pasadena and affordable housing and homelessness. This is a moral responsibility from all of us. Supporting students and parents, our public schools needs our support. So when you talk about affordable housing and homelessness, you can't leave that out of the conversation, because we have to rebuild this city from the haves and have-nots through affordable housing. I listened to the concerns of our residents, and you know, homelessness is actually showing up in two ways. You see the critical homeless that stand inside our grocery stores and ask for help. And you see our critical homelessness that stand outside our freeways and ask for help. But what we really want to talk about as well is the invisible homeless people. Those are our seniors who are aging out on fixed incomes. Those are our boomerang kids that are sitting on our couches and sleeping, and that we're not counting in this homelessness. So for me, addressing affordable housing and homelessness by proposing a citywide housing commission that analyzes the relationship between transitional housing, rent, and home ownership to recommend policy changes to city council and explore vacancy taxes in this city. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I'm honored to be here, and I want to tell you what I did this year. This past year, for 9 months, I walked my district, and I had a survey, and I had all the possible concerns on that survey, and I asked the residents to rank those concerns in order. I put a stamp on the postcard, they mailed them to me, and I have a stamp about that high of concerns. Housing is a very important issue. Affordable housing was right there on top. I was very surprised, actually, because when I ran in 2011, it was density as their big concern. So things kind of flipped around. I think that having a survey and listening to residents is very important for council members. You have to know what the residents are thinking and current thinking. So I support everything that your group is trying to do right now, Anthony and Jill, and I wrote to you. We have a lot of housing, affordable housing coming in our district because of all the developments that are coming in. So I support that, and I look forward to working with you, and I see the sign going up, so I'm going to sit down now. But thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you all for being here, actually. Thank you.
I will now introduce the 3 candidates from District 2. First is Trisha Keene. She has nearly 2 decades of experience working in and with local governments. She's a 15-year resident of Bungalow Heaven and has been volunteering with the community and involved in Pasadena government for the entire time she has lived in our city. From 2016 to 2019, she served on the Planning Commission and is a member, then chair, of the Design Commission. Thank you. Next is Kevin Litwin. Kevin is a state commissioner, a city commissioner. He's the COO of a real estate firm, and he is also a military veteran. Thank you. And third, we have Felicia Williams. She has a background in public policy and finance. She currently is on a Pasadena plan. She currently is a Pasadena Planning Commissioner, a board member of the Pasadena Educational Foundation, and was her Neighborhood Watch captain for 10 years. She believes she has the education, professional experience, and community involvement needed to turn the people's concerns and ideas into action. District 2 candidates, please share your vision for addressing the affordable housing and homelessness crises. Ms. Keene, you have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Thank you. It is undeniable that we are facing a housing and homelessness crisis in Pasadena, in the region, and really in the entire state of California. But we don't need to wait for other cities to act. We can't wait. We need to solve these problems here, and we need to solve these problems now. We can solve homelessness in Pasadena. I believe in the work that GPAHG is doing, and I believe in the collective commitment everyone in this room has to make homelessness history. The main cause of homelessness should come as no surprise. Over half of the people experiencing homelessness cite economic reasons. Job loss or eviction are among the most common reasons cited for falling into homelessness. Economic reasons drive our affordability crisis too. In a Pasadena where we solve homelessness, we have more supportive housing with services. We allow for the reuse of existing buildings like neglected motels or commercial properties and convert them into well-managed housing. We include more affordable units near transit because there's a direct connection to affordable housing and transit use. We remove obstacles to building housing for our workforce and middle-class families. And we invest in prevention. Rapid rehousing, short-term rental subsidies, job training, and placement. These all work. I believe in us, and I believe that we together can make this happen.
Good evening. So I'm Kevin Litwin, and one of the first things I want to echo is what you said at the end there. I'm probably here too because of the homeless situation, my frustration with our government. I think it's failing on multiple levels, and I want our elected officials to hear that because this is really getting people like us catapulted into this political arena. I'm not a politician, but here I am. And also, I hope we have a dead stop at 8 o'clock. I'm part of the homeless count too, so I want to get out in the streets and count. Now, that being said, I didn't know what half the stuff was going on, and I don't know if you know either. So I went down to the city and I met with Bill Huang, and he educated me on what's going on here. And he says, look, there's a continuum of care that we've been doing since 1995. Our homeless count is about 540 at the moment. In 2010, 2011, we switched from intake care centers to an outreach model, which has been a lot more successful. And we have a lot more prevention programs in place and permanent housing. One's Marv that came into our district but got re-switched around. It's not our district anymore. And so to me that points, I don't know if you know all that stuff's happening, because I didn't. There's some pretty good successful programs that our city's doing, especially comparable to what's going on in Los Angeles. It's an absolute disaster and war zone down there. So I think being the fact that we have everything under one roof, the continuum of care, the housing authority, the housing department, I think they're doing a pretty darn good job. So if I'm elected, I'm going to continue to oversee that and make sure that they're still continuing to do that good job. That, and then when we get to the affordable housing part, we got this project over here off the freeway here, that public storage unit place. There's almost 70 affordable units in there if we get the darn thing built and figure out how to get rid of the bad waste over there. And we can do that. I mean, this is 2020, so we can't figure that part out. So if I'm elected, I'd support that program. I'd support that development. And, so here I am.
Thank you. My name is Felicia Williams. I was born and raised in Pasadena. I'm very proud to be born and raised here. But when half of the people that look like me have left the city, there's a problem. There's a big problem. So I see it as a very different view of this because I grew up here and I saw it happening over the last 47 years. And I see the solution as twofold. One, we need to stabilize the population where it is now so we prevent the hemorrhaging of families and PUSD students out of Pasadena. And so my goal for doing that is to provide a subsidy to the older buildings, to those landlords, so they fix up the units and then covenant them with affordability restrictions. To further protect the other units, I would propose a no net loss ordinance, where any unit that is below market that is destroyed has to be replaced, and that tenant has to have first rights to that apartment. This would affect problems like the Washington 16. New owners buy the building and kick the tenants out and raise the rents. This would prevent problems like the Constance, almost 100 units of seniors removed from new development. So I would like to stop that. Once we get the patient stabilized, then we can look at new housing options because we'll then know what population we need to house. On the new housing development side, I would look at adaptive reuse first because it's consistent with the character, the historic character and beauty of Pasadena. Buildings like the YWCA, church properties. We're the first city to put housing in our mall in the state of California. It's a brilliant idea. All the infrastructure is already there. And then lastly, I would really encourage developers that if they are going to build new development, that they should build development that has community benefits. Local hire, good jobs, mixed income housing, or paying for improvements to connect it to the Gold Line. I'm Felicia Williams. I'm running for District 2.
Thank you. Finally, I would like to introduce the 4 candidates for mayor. First, we have Councilmember Victor Gordo. He has shared his personal story in the program book. He explains how he was brought to Pasadena by his family from Mexico when he was 4 years old and has lived in the city all his life. After helping his family, he went to college and graduated from law school and has dedicated his law career to defending the rights of working families. He worked as a program director for Day One before working for then council member Bill Crowfoot. He has served on the city council for nearly 20 years and is president of the Rose Bowl Stadium for 10 years as it was being renovated. Next we have Jason Harden. He explains in his website that he is running for mayor to show the people of Pasadena that all the money, degrees, and leverage in the world gives no one the monopoly on wanting or doing what's best for our city as a whole. He says that the mission of his campaign is not just to become your next mayor, but to inspire a level of civic involvement within our community, as well as inspire a whole new generation of leaders. We also have Mayor Terry Tornick. He was elected in 2015 as Pasadena's first new mayor in 16 years. Before serving as mayor, Terry was elected twice to Pasadena City Council and served as Pasadena's planning director, where he helped establish the redevelopment plan for Old Pasadena and update our general plan. Committed to addressing our homelessness crisis, Terry brings with him a 20-year history serving as a board member of Pasadena Neighborhood Housing Services, a nonprofit affordable housing organization in Pasadena, and Link Housing, which has built more than 5,000 affordable units statewide. Lastly, we have Major Williams. He started his first business selling car incense at local car washes and cutting grass for elderly neighbors. He studied business management and marketing in college. His experience in politics began 20 years ago working with nonprofits and community organizations all over the country. He launched Fly Kicks for Kids, a 501c3 nonprofit that provides economic resources and empowerment workshops for youth. Mayoral candidates, please share your vision for addressing the affordable housing and homelessness crises. Mr. Gordo, you have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Victor Gordo, and I'm proud and humbled to ask for your support as the next mayor of Pasadena. I am running on my record of service at Pasadena City Hall, but record of service in the community as well. Because this is specifically about housing. Let's talk about housing and my record of service. In 2001, we adopted the inclusionary housing ordinance. Many of you were present when we made that pitch. And I objected to the in-lieu fee because I believe that inclusionary housing should happen naturally as development occurs throughout the city. And I continue to object to the inclusionary housing fee. I was the person who pressed for granny flats, reasonable granny flat regulation from the very time that I joined the Pasadena City Council. We now know them as ADUs, but they're granny flats, and I advocated for a change of law there. With regard to recent projects, look at my record of service on housing. Let's start with all the affordable housing that's been constructed in my district. 6 of the last 7 projects are in my district. And we've been very, very creative about it. We've not only decided to construct down the street at Hudson, up the street at Hudson Oaks, affordable housing for seniors. When Union Station Foundation in 2003 said we need housing for women and families, I worked with Pepe Feinblatt and others to ensure that that project occurred at the corner of Lake and Orange Grove with my neighbors when it was being objected to. Look at the liquor stores. We've gotten rid of blight and replaced them with affordable housing. Look at Peoria and Fair Oaks, where we renovated existing housing and built responsible new construction. And I pledge to you that we'll continue to do that good work when I'm your mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harden?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I appreciate everyone for being here in the effort of Greater Pasadena Affordable Housing Group. I've been homeless several times in my life as a child with my family and immediately after graduating Pasadena High School. So I'm very serious about this issue, and it's close to my heart. And if elected, I want to take an aggressive approach towards homelessness and creating more affordable housing units. As senior commissioner, I helped establish the senior housing committee, a standing committee on senior housing. But also, I do want to help establish a affordable housing commission. There's a lot of opportunities through innovation, through technology, and through policy changes that can actually do a lot of things. But we need constant dialogue on affordable housing, not just meetings that come up every few months and once every year. We need constant dialogue to dig into a lot of the opportunities and take advantage of them. I also want to help strengthen our inclusionary housing ordinance even more and even raise the in lieu fee for developers that choose to opt out. Because like I said, as our stock of affordable housing goes down, we're going to see a problem. And I do not want to see shanties like in LA, like in San Jose, like in a lot of other places in the city. And I'm glad that we don't have them yet, but they're coming if we don't address this issue. So if I'm elected, I will take an aggressive approach on housing. I do admire the effort that all of you have shown, especially the Greater Pasadena Affordable Housing Group. And I just want to know that I'm here to work with everybody. I'm here to listen to the community. And like I said, it's dear to my heart. I've been there before, and I don't plan to go there again. And I don't want anybody to experience that. Even as a principal for a day at Learning Works, there's a 50% population of their students that are homeless, and that's just sad. And it's wrong. So I believe doing everything I can to fix the issue. Thank you.
Mayor Torrance.
Thank you, and thank you all for showing up. It means a lot just to get people together to listen and ask questions. As you heard in my biographical sketch, devotion to affordable housing is not a new fad for me. I've been involved in the struggle to build affordable housing. First thing I did when I came to Pasadena in 1982 with my family, I took the job as planning director to work on Old Pasadena, but I joined the board of Pasadena Neighborhood Housing Services. And some of you may remember Sandra Knox and the work that we did in Northwest Pasadena over a 20-year period. That was a labor of love for me, and I think we did a good job. And then I joined Link Housing, which did the same thing on a statewide basis, as you also heard. So this is not a new kind of a hobby for me. Affordable housing has been a big part of my adult life. I am somewhat expert in this. I'm trained as a city planner. I've been a real estate developer. And so it was my experience at Link Housing, for example, that brought the suggestion for the motel conversion ordinance. It was something that we had done elsewhere in LA County, and I thought it would be a good idea in Pasadena. I'm very much concerned about our inability to do everything that we need to do, although we have made solid progress, as was pointed out. So that, for example, when we began to talk about state overreach and intervention in local planning and development policies, my inclination was to draw a line in the sand and talk about litigation. In talking with housing advocates, like some of the people in the room, they persuaded me that that was not necessarily the best course of action. That it might be a better idea to work to modify state legislation as opposed to putting Pasadena in the category of the cities who are resisting the construction of affordable housing. So I listened carefully and I act accordingly. I asked to have the opportunity to continue to do that work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates, for sharing your vision for addressing the housing and homelessness crisis. Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies.
Awkward. Good afternoon, everyone. That was eventful. I prefer the introductions. My name is Major Williams. I'm running for mayor of Pasadena. One of the main reasons why I decided to run and I'm the first candidate to jump into the race over a year ago is because what I recognized going to city council meetings and work in the community is that we need a different brand of leadership. I was hard set on running this campaign, not having anything negative to say about a lot of our leadership, but what I wanted to do is address the facts, outline the facts. And one thing that I wanted to just stress to everyone on this particular campaign, there's a huge difference between experience or being a part of an inexperience. When you're voting for something, you're a part of a collective. My history and my background has actually allowed me to be impactful to actual people directly. And so when you're creating these obstacles or you're creating this conversation about your long-standing history, at some point, complex problems can continue to be complex problems. So it's ultimately going to push people out like myself, people out like you, that are not traditionally a part of this landscape and a part of this environment, to actually go out and stand up and really want to be a part of the solution versus watching the problem, screaming from the sidelines, and actually jumping into the game and being a part of the political field as an actual player. And so me addressing affordable housing is very dear to me because, of course, I come up from very impoverished beginnings. I came up from very impoverished beginnings, and I want to come up with creative ways so we can actually tackle those issues. Looking at California or looking at LA, I don't want this city to become the next city. And on the red, this is on purpose, guys. And I don't want this city to look like the next 10 city. And having that background in marketing, you can identify and understand trends. But eventually grow into something greater. And so my name is Major Williams. I look forward to the questions today. I look forward to interacting and engaging with you afterwards. I'm a new today, and I'm a new brand of leader. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now we are going to take a question at random from this hat, and each set of candidates will answer one question for 2 minutes. The responses to all the questions can be found in the candidate booklet.
It's like a Quaker meeting. That was pretty good. You like that? That was good. Bring it out.
Okay, we got this one.
The first question is for the District 6 candidates. This is the question. Please share your thoughts about the new state laws that give homeowners the option to build a junior ADU inside the residence, as well as an external ADU on the lot with fewer restrictions. Do you feel that the city should sue to prevent the state from preempting local control over zoning policies, such as the building of ADUs? And we'll begin with Mr. Bell.
Thanks again. So this is an important topic that people are talking a lot about. You'll hear a lot about it right now. I think the implementation of ADUs, which are, you probably know, smaller dwellings built on the same property as a homeowner in the backyard, for example, or within the boundaries of their existing house, so perhaps creating a separate entrance and creating 2 residences out of 1. I believe this is a creative way of adding to our housing supply. We need more housing. We're certainly not going to solve homelessness and all of the housing problems with ADUs, but nobody is actually claiming that. The other issue to consider is that people have forever been using illegal ADUs, like garages. When I first moved into my apartment in Northwest Pasadena, before I moved to where I am now, when I moved in, there was multiple evidences of someone living in my garage. People are living in unsafe conditions because they're using accessory dwelling units that are not built to be habitable. And this is going to continue to happen, and by creating a legal pathway we avoid that danger. It also helps us understand who's there, to make sure that they're counted in the census, for example, and also to understand the load that that places on our infrastructure, like water and plumbing, that we don't know about if they're in the shadows. So to bring people who are housing insecure out of the shadows and create accessory dwelling units, I think is a fantastic idea. I think some people are catastrophizing this, that saying that you're going to see a massive boom in ADUs being built in everyone's backyard and we're going to destroy single-family housing. I think this is greatly exaggerated. The reports I've read indicate that about 10% of homeowners perhaps might consider building and eventually build an ADU at their house. A lot of people don't want that at their house. A lot of people can't afford to do that. They're not financing instruments that are currently readily available to do that. So the quick answer is no, I don't think we should sue the state. I think that sends the wrong message, and I don't think it's necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Godley.
I won't try to jump over the table here. That way.
All right, thanks so much. So I think that one thing we want to be careful about is state overreach. I think it's really important. ADUs may be an appropriate way to add housing in certain circumstances, but I do have some concerns about it. You know, who's going to benefit from that? Existing property owners. And what we want to do is create more affordability for more people to be able to tap in the generational wealth building that is home ownership. I mean, one of the things, you know, many of us our parents were able to get homes, and homes were much more affordable, and that has allowed people to create wealth. And people that were kept out of that have been not able to create that type of generational. So we need to be careful about who this actually benefits. And then we need to figure out, is it appropriate for the state to say or for us to decide here how that works? I also worry a little bit. I mean, my mother-in-law had dementia and lived with us for 16 years. When she started living with us, she was doing well, and we wanted to build a granny flat for her at our house, but we couldn't, so we built an addition onto our house, which actually in the end turned out to be a real blessing, because then she was right with us, and it wouldn't really have been manageable as she aged and as her dementia worsened. So I just think the different things that these can be used for, the downsides, the upsides, we really need to think carefully about them, and are they really serving the purposes of affordability that we're all trying to get to?
And Mr. Madison.
So I think a little bit of quick history is helpful here. We, for the longest time in Pasadena, we had a moratorium on ADUs. Obviously, we have a rich history of granny flats in our city. There are many, many homes that were built decades ago that do have second units or accessory dwelling units. That's the acronym. And then the state imposed legislation that mandated that we essentially lift our moratorium. And you know, we heard from some that the sky was falling. And the truth is, it hasn't had a major impact on quality of life or on the neighborhoods, which was the fear. So I think here too, now 2 ADUs per lot size, including some very small lots, does raise legitimate concerns about neighborhood quality of life, traffic, congestion. You have the Airbnb phenomenon that comes into play here as well. So I think the trick will be coming up with a local policy that will implement the state legislation in a way that will be able to accomplish our goals. So I do not support litigation. I need to be measured here because the council is receiving, you know, privileged legal advice about this. But and I am concerned about local control, but I'm also painfully aware that local control is often a euphemism for some things in this country that we don't have a very proud history of. So I want to be mindful of that. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move to the District 4 candidates question. And I'll go ahead and randomly pull that. So for the District 4 candidates, the question is, many churches in this city have expressed interest in building affordable / homeless housing on their excess land. This might require changes in zoning and parking requirement. How do you feel about this? And we will begin with Ms. Bland.
let me just start with this. I was born and raised in the church, and it was the foundation of really our communities. And it's a sad, sad, sad state that we see our churches closing. I see all on TV just this week a historical church in Los Angeles that was closing, and that just speaks to what's happening in our communities. So when you think about why that's happening, and before I get to the zoning part of that, it's happening because of affordable housing. The congregants cannot afford to live in the communities in which they want to serve, and that's a tragedy. So now all of a sudden the churches are faced with empty pews, and now what are they going to do with the real estate that they own and the land that they own it on? They have to do something with that. So of course the solution in the conversation is to talk about zoning those churches so that they have commercial residential use. That's an important thing for us to do. We owe this to our communities, to really look how we can really provide space and build units that would address the homeless housing, affordable housing that we have in our city today. So we have to go back to City Hall, we have to talk to the people that are in the zoning departments, and we have to say, listen, we have to do something about this. We can't leave vacant land for years at a time with nothing on it. And I'm sure a lot of you have driven through Pasadena and you've seen the vacant lawns and you've seen the church doors closed, and you're wondering to yourself, what is going to happen with that? I, as a city council person, will go and change those zoning laws because we owe it to the community that we live in.
Councilmember Macedo.
Thank you very much. I struggled with this question because I was a neighborhood representative, and I'm really concerned about the quality of life in neighborhoods. I wouldn't support this proposal without asking the residents how they feel. I think it's a wonderful idea, and it needs to be explored more. And I appreciate the churches offering their property for such a thing, but from my perspective, I would have to make sure that the residents are comfortable with this issue of rezoning a property for permanent supportive housing or affordable housing. I think it would be a heavy lift for the council to decide to rezone property for this use. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to District 2, and I will choose another question. So for the District 2 candidates, this is the question. There is currently a debate about whether the Civic Center should be used only for commercial use or for affordable/homeless housing as well as for commercial use. What do you feel is the best use of the Civic Center? And we will begin with Ms. Keene.
Thank you. I think we can all agree that this microphone is a little bit challenging this evening. I think we can also agree that the Civic Center is truly the heart of the city. We are lucky in Pasadena to have the center of our city be a place that has so well planned, is so well thought of, and has so many historic and cultural resources. But to me, that also means that we need to look at reuse of the Civic Center as a way that, or for something that actually provides community benefits and achieves a greater good. For me, the perspective of how to reuse the YWCA building that has fallen into grave disrepair and the space, the parking lot nearby and the space behind Centennial Place, the lot across the street on Holly, really has to involve both the commercial use that has been proposed in order to fund the more important and the absolutely critical affordable housing use and supportive housing use. So a proposal that has supportive housing, that has family housing, that has homeless housing, that has anything that we need in order to actually solve our housing crisis is something that I think we should really take a good hard look at. I think we need to be very realistic, though, that in order to preserve the YWCA building and do so in a way that is fiscally responsible for the city, we're going to need to allow for some commercial redevelopment of that property to fund that renovation, that restoration, and the maintenance and operation of that building. So I think coupling both of those together is really the way to get a win-win so that we can preserve a historic resource which is near and dear to my heart. This is a Julia Morgan building, and those are kind of amazing. But to do it in a way that really does achieve the greater good of providing affordable housing, supportive housing, and family housing for the residents of Pasadena who truly need it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Littman.
Juice, gonna get the ADU question. So, for the Civic Center there, what I think some folks might need to understand, if you've never been a commissioner, never been a politician, or any on this side of government, is that I know with, at least for California state parks, that's what I do as a state commissioner. There's general plans that go into this, that go back decades. There is a lot of time and effort that's put into by the executive staff. And I could tell you all day long, yeah, you know, I want it to be this, or I want it to be that. I could tell you I want to solve homelessness too, which I wouldn't be lying if I wouldn't tell you that, right? But there's so many complications into this, and what we really need to do is let that situation get vetted out so it can be presented to the mayor and the council and the staff, what they come up with, and basically make a decision then. You can make a well-informed and educated decision. Overall, there already is a permanent supportive housing unit there. Believe it, if you do that or not, it's right there on the other building. So I would like to really, I personally, now opinionated, take all that aside. In my opinion, yeah, I would like to see something in there, maybe a hotel or something like that. Like Trish says, brings back some revenue for the city. But yeah, it's a pretty loaded question, and that's basically how I would handle it if I was elected.
And Ms. Lopez.
Thank you. So the YWCA has been near and dear to my heart. I actually have an entire financial model at home that analyzes multiple different nonprofit uses for the YWCA, and it is incredibly feasible. We could have a YMCA there. We could have Annandale there, or the Annenberg Foundation there. We could have the Senior Center there. There are many options for the YWCA building, and the city needs vision, and they need the help of the people to really get to that vision. The YWCA was built for the people. It was bought by the people with our money, and it should be returned to the people. It is completely financially feasible. And if we create services at the YWCA, we then invest in people and we save money in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the question for the mayoral candidates. And I'll choose a random question. For the mayoral candidates, there is a debate about whether new affordable/homeless housing should be built in every district, including Northwest Pasadena, where low-income people are being displaced due to gentrification. What is your opinion on this issue? And we will begin with Councilmember Gordo.
Thank you. I think people have the right to live in every part of our city. And I do believe that we should do a better job of having affordable housing throughout the city. That's why I supported the inclusionary housing ordinance. And that's why I've supported projects in my district that have provided affordable housing. But we need a comprehensive strategy. We need a comprehensive strategy that applies citywide for the retention of affordable housing. When Michelle White came to me years ago and said, I need your help to retain an affordable housing apartment building, I lent her that help, and we fought for the retention of the affordable housing she now provides and lives in. We also need a regional strategy. How many of you believe housing is a regional issue? Raise your hand. Now, I plan to work with our neighboring cities to do that. In 2018, our incumbent mayor pulled us out of the San Gabriel Council of Governments The San Gabriel Council of Governments, 31 municipalities, 2.3 million people. I voted no, by the way. 29 school districts, all working together to start a joint powers authority to leverage our local dollars and bring in more housing, affordable housing dollars for the region. As your mayor, I intend to go back, ask the council to take us back into this Council of Governments and work with our neighbors as a region, not just in Northwest Pasadena, not just in Pasadena, but throughout the region, because this is an issue that Pasadena cannot solve alone. And I think it's shameful that we aren't working with our neighbors. Just this past December, the Council of Governments had the last stakeholder meeting for that joint powers authority that's going to bring us as a region more housing dollars. And Pasadena was not there. We are the best, greatest city in the region, and we should be leading that effort, not walking away from it.
Mr. Harden?
Thank you. I absolutely believe that we have to be better at allocating our affordable housing development. Diversity in our city is very important, and we can capitalize off that if we be more creative in where we allocate some of these developments. Because recently I did a documentary film called Pasadena Exploring Solutions to Reduce Gang Violence, and Ms. Jill Shook featured in that film, and she made an excellent point. And the point was basically that if we kind of have different experiences, if we kind of send folks, if some folks can get out of their environment and actually be raised and experience different environments, they might have a different outcome in their life. And I believe that if we kind of spread some of these affordable housing units, we can reduce crime in our community. And we all know that we have a lot of crime in Northwest Pasadena. And I do believe we should have more affordable units in Northwest Pasadena, but it should be done through mixed-use development, because the battle of gentrification is not just about housing, it's about businesses too, and businesses owned by community members that's been here forever. So I absolutely believe this it should be a more creative approach into how we allocate living situations such as affordable housing. And we already know that from Pasadena's history and redlining and things like that, there's a lot of racist practices in regards to how housing is allocated in Pasadena, and we really need to change that. Thank you.
Mayor Tornick?
Thank you. I think that it's important that affordable housing be spread throughout the city. I don't view affordable housing as a penalty that is imposed on anyone. I think that concept comes from the sort of old days of big, very low-income projects, which is not what we're talking about. The inclusionary housing approach, the small unit developments like Marv's Place, which is 21 units, I think, on Union Street. These are not neighborhood-threatening projects, and to exclude Northwest Pasadena as an opportunity to build housing, I think would be a terrible mistake. I think further that this notion, there was a little diversion here from Northwest Pasadena to the Council of Governments. I will just tell you that the reason we came out of the Council of Governments is because they weren't relevant to Pasadena. I'm not running for mayor of the San Gabriel Valley or state rep. I'm running for mayor of Pasadena. That Council of Governments did not serve our interests. They fought us on the 710. They had no interest in affordable housing, whereas we have our own continuum of care and we're a leader in that area. And I felt that the affiliation with Burbank and Glendale was a more appropriate affiliation in terms of regional cooperation. So I'm not apologetic, and that was a majority of the council that made that decision. I think that's a diversion from the issue of trying to exclude any affordable housing from built in Northwest Pasadena, which I think would be a mistake.
Thank you. And Mr. Williams?
Thank you. I made the cut this time. So for me, it's a very simple answer when it comes to if I feel like affordable housing should be spread across all over our city. I am a champion for people. I don't have any separatism thoughts. I feel like, similar to what Jason said, honestly, if you put certain individuals and certain people, certain kids in certain environments, it actually does allow them to thrive. I have a story to where in my environment, in my high school, it was 99.1% African American. One summer, I had the opportunity to travel to Denver, Colorado, to a fellowship of Christian athletes. It was the first time, and I went with my buddies, and immediately once we got there, they split us all up. So I went crazy because I'm in this room with 4 other gentlemen, and it's all different ethnicities. And it ended up being the most amazing experience of my life, and it changed the trajectory of how I saw the world. And so, do I believe that there should be more affordable housing? Absolutely. It's a very simple answer. And as the next mayor, I would champion for that. But I will also caution you to understand that if this is a problem that we're talking about now during this election season, why hasn't this come up? Oftentimes you have our elected officials attaching themselves to things during election time, but what about them creating a movement versus jumping on the movement, just voting for something? It's time for leadership to actually be the advocate for creating these movements on your behalf. And that's what I represent, and that's what I mean by different brand of leadership. Look, this is easy for me to get up here and talk to you. It's easy for me to come to your house and have dinner. It's easy for me to go play ball with your 18-year-old son, even though my back could be hurt the next day. But this is the type of brand leadership that we need now and moving forward in the future, for the future of Pasadena. And I can't stress it enough. So thank you guys for all coming out, sharing your time with us. This is important. Thank you for having this event. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now hear the closing statements of each of the candidates, and we will begin with the District 6 candidates and Ryan Bell.
It's been a pleasure to be with you, and honestly, it's so inspiring for all of you to be here for this wonky conversation. I'm sure it must be thrilling to the leaders, Jill and Anthony, and the leaders of GPAHG to see all of you here. I'm a tenant. I've always been a tenant. I'm 48 years old. I've been fully employed my entire life, and I've never earned enough money to purchase a home. It's just the reality. I've been evicted. I used to live just up the road here on Los Robles and Washington, but my landlord decided he wanted to double the rent, and so without any reason at all, he evicted me from that apartment. I quickly went to the city code figuring that this must be illegal, and discovered that it was not illegal, and there was absolutely nothing I could do about it. And it was at that point that I got involved in the Pasadena Tenants Union, and I'm so happy that so many of my friends are here from PTU who've been fighting ferociously against landlords and corporate interests who have no interest in the people who live here in Pasadena. They're interested in turning a profit out of land that they were able to buy. 58% of Pasadena residents are tenants. 58%. We're the majority. According to a LA Times article a few weeks ago, rents have gone up in the last decade by 65%, while renters' incomes have gone up by 35%. You don't need to be, a mathematician to see that this is not sustainable, especially for seniors and people living on fixed incomes. This is not a hobby for me. I've been doing this for 15 years, advocating on behalf of myself and people like me who are tenants and who are housing insecure. The problem that we're facing with homelessness and affordable housing is not a bug in the system, it's a feature of the system that we have. And the only way that we can to change it is to resist the system pulling us all deeper into it. So that's why I'm asking for your support. If you live in District 6, I would appreciate your vote this coming March. Thank you.
I actually want to thank all of you for coming out to talk about this really important issue. It is really encouraging to see all of you out here on a random Tuesday night. And it's been really encouraging actually talking to the people in my district and how people are very public-minded and concerned about these issues and want to be a part of these solutions. We are living in disruptive times, and as a society we are facing many pressing issues. The solutions of the last 2 decades are not going to be the solutions of the next 2 decades. We need new and innovative thinking. And housing and affordability and homelessness, they're right in the center of the things that we in Pasadena need to be thinking about. And what Pasadena is that we're at a scale that we can actually take on some of these things and see if we can pioneer some solutions that then can be scaled up. So I'm really excited to be working on those types of things. But we also have a city council right now that has only one woman, and she's not running again. And in this day, we should not, in 2020, we should not have one woman on the Pasadena City Council. Thank you. The UN says at the rate of change we're going to now, it'll take us over 100 years to get to any kind of parity. We need to be committed to more inclusiveness in our leadership, and that also will bring new and exciting ideas to our city council. I look forward to having your support. Please reach out to me. My contact information is everywhere on my website, on my materials. I welcome your questions, your thoughts, your ideas. I really am encouraged. I think with the bright minds and the public-mindedness of the people in Pasadena, we can really do something about these important issues. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Well, I think as is evident from this panel tonight, these are complex issues. And I think City Hall is a place where experience and proven progressive leadership really counts. We had an 8-member city council with no tie-breaking mechanism. So as one of the candidates said, talk is easy, but actually getting things done is difficult, delivering results. I want to just quickly tick off a few of the things that I've been proud to work with you all on. Mentioned the inclusionary zoning, and in terms of disbursement, absolutely. My district, for all of its affluence and the image of West Pasadena, we have the second highest number of affordable housing units in the city and the second highest number of inclusionary units since we adopted the ordinance. I'm very proud of that. We have hundreds of affordable units in West Pasadena. We need more. We have opportunities for more. I mentioned the Caltrans houses. A couple of other projects I'm very proud of are we built 9 single-family ownership homes at Desiderio. We have 9 families there, including 3 returning veteran families. We have 29 school-age and preschool-age kids living in those 9 homes. I'm very proud of that project. In my district on Waverly, we acquired a Caltrans house already, and we have 3 low to moderate income single women living there, and the neighborhood has embraced them, and I'm very, very proud of that project as well. We have a 50-acre freeway stump. We finally killed the 710, and now we're going to have the opportunity to revision and reimagine that 50-acre stump. And I have a specific plan for that, which includes primarily homes, neighborhoods. There were neighborhoods of largely people of color there before Caltrans took the property out, and I think we owe that community deference and respect as we rebuild. You know, all of this is the reason why every single organization that's endorsed so far in this race has endorsed me, and I'm grateful for that, and I'd be honored to have your support as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And on to the closing comments from our District 4 candidates and Ms. Blandon.
Good evening again, and thank you to the Greater Pasadena Affordable Housing organization for putting this together this evening, and it's an honor to be on the panel with these candidates tonight. I just want to say that as a candidate for City Council District 4, my platform states to protect the character of Pasadena. And yes, the constituents tell me they are concerned about the development in Pasadena. However, I just want to state that it's not a good idea for Pasadena to sue the state of California for these ADU laws, and that it would harm the city of Pasadena, and chances of winning would be a long process, and we need to have affordable housing in place today, right now. The state law would help the missing middle. The state still allows local government to enact those ordinances. We cannot emphasize enough the national crisis that we are in right now with affordable housing and homelessness. The granny flats, which is, I remember in the day, was called the mother-in-law units, right? It's a way for families, living with aged parents who are ending up in assisted living. Can you imagine if we could just bring them home with us and have them be with their grandchildren and feel whole? How important that would be. Or what about those boomerang kids? I know I've had a few. They've come back because they can't afford to go out on their own quite yet. And they can stay in those units and save money and get their own place to live. This is the things we need to think about. So if there's one thing Pasadena loves, it's choices. What to eat, where to work, who to vote for, but when it comes to where we live or how to get around, our choices can be limited. Many people of all ages would like to live in a vibrant neighborhood, and we deserve them all. So again, thank you, Greater Pasadena Affordable Housing, for advocating for the protection and production and preservation of quality, appropriate, affordable housing with priority on the most vulnerable population of low and no income residents and the disparities of this housing throughout the city of Pasadena. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Masuda.
Thank you very much, and I too am very grateful for being here, and thank you for inviting me to join all of you for tonight's event. I'm going to talk about where I changed my mind on something. The question was, rising rents are a major cause of homelessness and displacement. Being an apartment owner, I felt that rent control didn't work. But I said earlier that I walked the district for 9 months, and I talked to so many people, a lot of renters. They're very concerned about rent increases. And they told me about that they're worried about their next rent increase. My field rep, Noreen Sullivan, helps a lot of people that are homeless. And I think, Jill, she shared a story with you about a veteran recently. His name is Terry. And it's a long, long process, but she was very successful in getting him a home. I voted against the motel conversions because I have more motels in my district than any other district by far. And I couldn't get the council to agree to have only one per district because I didn't think it was fair because of all the motels we have in our district. And we all heard about the conversion that the Ramada Inn went, and there was a lot of backlash. In my district, District 4, we fear motel conversions being pushed on us. So my time is up, and so the last thing I want to say is thank you so much for inviting me, and I look forward to working with you on other issues. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to Tricia King from District 2.
Thank you. So you've heard a lot tonight about commitment to addressing our affordable housing and homelessness crisis. And that's great, because broad commitment is exactly what we need. But we also need to turn that commitment into action. We need to turn that commitment into action now. And I have 20 years of experience as a land use attorney and working for local government directly on housing and homelessness issues. And so I'm pretty confident that I can help turn that commitment into action. But we are at a crossroads. We're at a moment where we collectively have a choice. We can decide to do what it takes to make housing more affordable and to truly solve homelessness in Pasadena. And I'm going to continue to believe that we can actually solve homelessness in Pasadena. All eyes right now are on housing. Making more housing available, making housing more affordable, and even the state is paying attention. Frankly, the state will keep stepping in if cities keep pushing back. So we need to step up and do the right thing. We need to harness the energy that's brewing now to move Pasadena forward in a positive direction. If elected, one of the first things that I will focus on is building robust prevention programs, because I think we need to stem the pipeline into homelessness. I think within one term, hopefully a lot sooner than that, we can actually have prevention programs in place that work. We can fund rapid rehousing programs, we can fund short-term rental subsidies, we can keep people housed instead of letting them fall into homelessness before we help them. We do, I think you've heard tonight, we have a model where we have more resources available for people who are already homeless than we have available for people who are at risk of being homeless. And yet for the low cost of a couple months rent, or subsidizing a car repair bill, or paying some medical bills, we can keep people housed, and we should do that. So we can innovate, we can look at shared housing or host home programs as inspiration, and I think together we can make real progress and get this done.
Thank you. Mr. Litwin.
Thank you. So thank you everybody for coming out as well. I want to extend that for myself and for hosting this event and inviting me, and for my fellow candidates too as well. Thanks for putting up with me. Once again, I'm pretty darn frustrated. I'm frustrated with what's going on around here anymore nowadays, and I don't know what the heck's going on, quite frankly. I should be sitting over on that side and, you know, cheering on whoever else is over here, but I don't feel I can anymore. I feel like at this point I'm micromanaging this process so much. I'm micromanaging every single level of government because it's become so one-sided. It's become such one voice. I mean, this is still the United States of America. It's a constitutional republic. Everybody gets a voice here, you know. And this is, to me, starting to dissipate. So I'm tired and I'm done with it, and that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm involved. That's why I'm getting involved. And when you're downtown LA and you're in these other cities, it's mind-blowing to me that you see somebody dying on the streets and I can't call anybody to help. This is crazy. You know, at that point, to me, that's taxation without representation. You know, and when that happened before, I think the Quakers were around, there was a bit of an issue, right? We had a little bit of tea issue. So that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm going to continue to stay involved. And that's why I want to get even deeper involved. And this is the best I can do, too, as local government, because I do have a job, full-time job already. So that's why I want you to give me your vote, and look forward to you coming to the polls on March 3rd, and continue to stay involved, not just vote. But go out there, help change some narratives, because it's being driven way too one-sided. Thank you.
Thank you. So my name is Felicia Williams. Currently I work with cities financing really large projects. I have the finance experience and I have the city experience to be able to lead. But in addition, I have the community experience. I grew up here. I know a lot of you in the room. We've worked together on many projects together, and I'm the only candidate who's actually walked the entire district, which means the apartments in my district. And people have invited me in. They've showed me their apartments. They've showed me the dripping pipes, the carpets that are soaked. They showed me the different conditions that they live in, and that's not right. So I would like to first stop and take inventory. What do we have? What I'm hearing from the renters in my different district is a very different story than what I'm hearing citywide. So first, stop and take inventory. We need the data. How many of these new apartments are actually occupied? Who is occupying them? Who's getting the affordable units? And how many units that we have that are at risk, that are below market, where people are living, but they're not in good conditions that we need to fix up. So once we get that data, we can then go and we can create programs to protect and improve housing that we have. So first is to provide a subsidy to landlords to fix the rent and tie it to income. That will protect the renters more than rent control actually will, and that complements the state anti-rent gouging that has been passed. Secondly, a no net loss ordinance. No older units should be destroyed. They should be fixed up. Next, I would go to adaptive reuse of buildings like the YWCA, like churches, like schools, and like shopping centers and offices where people don't really work anymore. A lot of people work from home. And lastly, if we are going to do new development, support new development that has community benefits. My vision for this city is a diverse and vibrant city that can sustain itself far into the future, where people who grew up here can move back here, people who are empty nesters can downsize within the city, people who work in the city can live here. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to the mayoral candidates. Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you. As I said, we need a comprehensive strategy on retention and construction. And I believe that I've led the charge on that. I give you one example with Michelle White's building of retention. retaining affordable housing. Recently at 1070 North Lake, the neighbors around there, this is Councilmember McCostin's district, came to me, and Councilmember McCostin came to me and said, we need your help to retain 144 units so that they don't go to market. I stepped in and we retained those units as affordable housing. We need to do more of that because every unit that we construct costs us $550,000. And for just under that, we were able to retain 144 units led by me together with Councilmember McCostin. In terms of not constructing affordable housing in the Northwest, who has ever said that? In fact, it's the reverse. That's where we've been building affordable housing. I amended the ordinance to change the rules in this city to allow dollars that were generated outside the Northwest to come back into the Northwest and get rid of blight. And we did that. And we need to continue to do more of that citywide. In terms of a regional approach, it is true that our incumbent mayor made the motion to take us out of the San Gabriel Council of Governments. I will never dismiss our neighbors as not relevant. Of course they're relevant. We live next to them. We need to work with them. Remember that it's the San Gabriel Council of Governments that wrest control away from Metro of the Gold Line. That was a tremendous benefit to Pasadena. Pasadena has a rich tradition of leading on issues. Housing is a pivotal issue, not just in Pasadena, but for the region. And I believe that Pasadena should return to its tradition of leading. The 710 freeway question was already decided on March 3rd, 2018 when we were pulled out. We need to go back and work with our neighbors. And I pledge to you that we will do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harden.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for having me. Recently I did an interview, and the first question they asked me is, why are you running? And my response was simple. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And I'm tired of us being on the menu. By us, I mean renters, I mean working class families, I mean minorities, I mean those of us sending our children to public school. And I also hear a lot about experience. And it's, to be honest, I don't have a lot of experience with local government, but the last time I checked, that's not what it takes to represent the people of Pasadena. And I do believe that if some of the local leaders had my experience and life experience, that they would actually make great leaders of our city. In addition, that being said, I do support the vacancy taxes. I do support utilizing church land. I do support the ADUs, and I do support the conversion of the Ramada Inn into supportive housing. But also, I believe that, like I said, the mayor's job is to lead. And I'm not here to represent the city of Pasadena. I'm not running for mayor to represent the city of Pasadena. I'm running for mayor to represent the people of Pasadena. Because the city manager represents the city of Pasadena, and they have enough representation as it is. We need somebody to represent the people. We need somebody to represent all of you. We need somebody to listen and ask the tough questions. Up here, everybody asks us the questions, and on the council, that's not how it works. The power of the mayor, elected officials, is to ask the question and get the information heard, so we can all make the best decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Tornick.
Thank you. You know, campaigns are really an interesting experience. It really is a great opportunity for the community to come together and ask their questions and hear new, innovative ideas. Last week, we were at a forum that was focused on the environment, global warming. The people in the audience were completely focused on what the city was doing or not doing with regard to mitigating global warming. Tonight it's housing. Next week we'll be meeting with the school board, and the focus will be on education. All of those issues are critical to the quality of life in Pasadena. The job of the mayor, I think, is to listen to the people, understand what the issues are that they have, what their ideas are, then find some expertise, either your own expertise or gather experts who have good solutions, think innovatively, and then find a way to get 8 votes, as Councilmember Madison pointed out, on the city council to make sure that it happens. I think I have that ability. I think I've demonstrated it, and I have the ability to keep moving Pasadena forward, and I need your help to make that happen. But these challenges, all of them, are characterized as crises. I think most of us understand that Pasadena is a wonderful city, and as I walk the districts, and I, like Jean, have been walking with a questionnaire for 9 months, I've gotten the information too, and yet there's tremendous differences of opinion, as you might expect. The same person on my little card will put down that homelessness and density are the two biggest problems. And so when I communicate with them and say, you know, there's a little bit of a tension in that response, they just sort of look at me and say, well, you know, I understand we need to provide more housing and we need to deal with homelessness, but I'm worried about all these new units we're building in Pasadena. That's what we deal with at the city council. That's what it means to be mayor. I think I'm equipped to deal with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mr. Williams.
Perfect. So thank you once more, Anthony and Jill, for allowing us to come up here and represent our voices for this campaign. As Mayor Tornick said, you know, campaigning is it's a very interesting field to be in. Have a minute to, you know, be articulate and be compelling when you ask these particular questions. Me, my background is in marketing, so it's kind of like a superpower for me to be able to take something from A to Z and actually make it simplified to the point where you actually cut a check or you get it or something that moves you at some capacity. So for me, it's a different field. Understanding the nuances of the crisis that we're facing from a national level, from a statewide level, and also from a citywide level when it comes to affordable housing, that's something that is very complex. That's something that we all have to collectively come together. My issue is this. For many years, we've had the similar individuals attacking these issues. This is not like this just came up. At some point, we have to look in the mirror and say that doing the exact same thing over and over again is called insanity. No different than electing the same officials over and over again to fulfill a job that they're only voting for. We need more action. What's the in addition to? So my thing is, I want to join forces with individual people, individual groups. I don't want to have to rely just on 8 votes. And that's the difference. I operate beyond the black and white definition of the mayor's role. The difference between the mayors that we've had here recently, they operate within the confines of the black and white definition, and that has to change. So if I am able to be your next mayor, you will have a champion, you will have a different voice, a different enthusiasm that will be attacking issues and creating a movement, not joining your movement, so we can all collectively benefit and push Pasadena forward together. My name is Major Williams. I'm running for Mayor of Pasadena. You can text me directly, 626-623-3753, and we are in this together. God bless.
Let's give all the candidates an applause.
Thank you to each of you for coming, educating yourselves, writing out your responses. Those will all be available if you are given permission on our website. So, and thanks to all of you for coming. Many times people say, you know, Jill and Anthony's thing. Well, it's all of us. And we have an amazing team that's worked together for years. And so I want to tell you a little bit about our work and ways you can be involved right now. Believe it or not, there's no state or federal policy that requires affordable housing to be built. Not one. It's incentivized, it's planned, and if you receive money for that purpose, you have to build it, but there's nothing that requires cities to do this. All affordable housing must be advocated for. And that takes an army of volunteers to do research, to learn best practices, to find out what other cities are doing, to know what works and how it works, and if it's right for our city. So we need a lot of folks willing to get involved, use their gifts and abilities to do the work. I remember when my city council person, who's not here tonight, it's Tyrone Hampton, District 1, just before he ran, I met with him and I had a list of 10 things I wanted him to do if he was to be elected. So midnight before the election, I still wasn't sure. And he emailed me and he says, Jill, I'll do 8 of those 10. I said, okay, that's good enough. And he has held to it. All 8 of those things he has done. And so you can look at what people have said tonight and you can hold them accountable. And you can remember. And if you don't remember, go to our website. So we want to thank each of you for coming. Pasadena has an amazing history of public engagement, and you're all part of making that history tonight. So we invite you to join us. It's really an amazing, beautiful, joy-filled journey. We are motivated by our faith, and believe me, it takes a lot of faith to do this work. We have those who have no faith join us. All are welcome. We build consensus in small groups where everyone has a voice, a powerful model that builds community and transforms our community at the same time. Please consider joining our ADU committee. Our leader for that is Anne-Marie Molina. Can you stand? There she is in the back. So please talk to her if you want to look at how to streamline the cost of building ADUs so that we can make them more affordable. Consider joining our homeless and housing subcommittee. So that is run by Anthony Manousis. Please stand. Please talk to him if you would like to look at how to solve our homeless crisis in our city. Just this last year, we've been able to help support 134 units of permanent supportive housing in our city to get passed. So it's very exciting what we're doing there. Please consider joining our safe parking team, which is helping those experiencing homeless to live in their cars to stay either in a church parking lot or a safe place on their path to getting permanently housed. Is Tom our leader? So Tom right here, be sure to talk to him if you're interested in joining that committee. And then you may be part of a church that has excess land. And next page. And so our church land committee would love to talk to you and see if that's possible on your church site. So we also have monthly GPAHG committees, Greater Pasadena Affordable Housing Group. We meet right in this space on the 4th Tuesday of every month. We hope you'll join us at 7 o'clock on the 25th of February. We have flyers for that meeting, and that whole meeting that night is going to be all about ADUs. It's going to be a great evening. So you may not be able to get involved as much as you would like, but you may wish to help contribute. It takes money to do this kind of work. So that too is a significant contribution to help solve our shortage of affordable housing, which it may feel impossible, but we know that with God all things are possible. Thanks.
So thank you all for coming. It's just great to see our meeting house filled with people who care about homelessness and housing. We have some snacks and things here, and maybe some of the council members and the candidates would like to stick around a little bit and get to know their constituents. Thanks again. God bless you all.